Hello, this is OverlordBou, and we're back with another ship review, and today we'll be looking at the new Tier 10 Pan-Asian Cruiser, the Jinan. So, throughout the video today, I'll be going over the ship and why I would not recommend the ship, except for in randoms. Now let's look over the armor real quick and the build. So the armor is 16 millimeters with a 32 on the side, right there, 95 armor plating right there. And it also has it above water citadel as well, so you definitely want to watch out for that. Now the build I have currently for this ship would be main armaments, damage con, actually that would be engine room. Engine room is sick because your engines can get knocked out quite easily in this ship. Now you can do aiming systems if you like, but since you can focus more on torpedoes on this ship, I would take torpedo tubes instead. But of course it's a personal preference for you. Propulsion, concealment, and firing range for that. And for the commander build here, I would take incoming fire alert, demolition expert, heavy HE and sap, filling the tubes, enhanced torpedo, adrenaline rush, superintendent, and concealment. Or if you want to get a little bit more extra health, you can also build over in a survivability expert right here as well. Now I do build a little bit different on this one compared to the tier 9 and below, which will be showcased in the video on Wednesday. But the build that you can do throughout all the lines would be pretty much this. This would be it right here. So you can also build it this way as well. Up to you, more of a personal preference there. All right, so as further ado, I'll let the replay play while I talk about the ship and such. So here you go. All right. Now, so the armor and survivability, which we just looked at. It has a 16 millimeter bow and stern with a 32 millimeter side armor with 16 millimeter deck armor. Now, it does have the lowest HP pool among the tier 10 cruisers with a health pool of 35,200. It also has a 4% torpedo protection, which is very, very low. And it also, as I showcased earlier, it also has a very high above water citadel, which is definitely very easy to set on, and you definitely do not want to be messing with that at all. So to put it mildly, the Jinan is not very good at taking hits. Even DDs have better taking abilities due to their lack of citadel. Either dodge or pray the AP shell overpins the citadel pretty much. Now let's talk about the main armament. The ship does come with 5 twin 127 millimeter 54 guns with a base range of 14.5 kilometers. And those have a base reload of 3.5 seconds and a turret duration of 4.5 seconds for 180 degrees. Now the HE pen is 21 millimeters of HE pen with 1800 damage and 9% fire chance. The AP also has very low pen as well with 2100 damage and normal bounce angles. Now, note, while the Austin and Jinan share the same guns and HE shells, they inexplicably have different ballistics. While the Jinan theoretically has some respectable firepower, her poor shell ballistics and low HE pen severely let her down. They are still very good for lighting fires, but are very ineffective past 12 kilometers due to the slow shell speed. Now because of this, the Jinan will struggle to hit most DDs and cruisers outside her detection range. Still, these guns will rack up damage very quickly if the Jinan can safely farm at close ranges. Also, her AP is so bad, you can effectively ignore it on all but the closest broadside cruisers, and don't bother going for citadels. Well, let's talk about the torpedoes on this thing. Now there are 4 Quinn torpedo tubes, 2 on either side, so 10 torp broadsides. Now these torps are 13.5 kilometer range with a 69 knot speed with a 0.8 detection radius, so you pretty much have 4.5 second reaction time to be able to react to these. You don't have much time at all. Now you do have a flood chance of 368%, which is above average which is about average for a torp. And you do get an 26-second reload. Now you do get access to torpedo reload booster from the tier 7 and above. So you do get it for the tier 10. Now, these torps do have a 3 points. Now, since the ship does have a concealment of 9.8, you get a 3.7 kilometer stealth torpedo buffer. So pretty much you don't even have to shoot your guns in this thing. You can just launch torps over and over and over again. So that's why you mostly build for torpedo on this for current vessel. Now, the Jinan by far is the scariest torpedo ship in the game, being able to output 40 torpedoes in a span of 30 seconds. Now, any ship trying to push into that without Hydra is going to have a bad time. Now, this complements the Jinan's guns, as her torps can flood enemy ships or control their movement, allowing the guns to set fires. Now, let's move on to the anti-air defense. Now, the anti-air defense has the following. It has a total of 8 flat clouds, with 6 being inner and 2 outer. It has a far continuous damage range of 3.5 to 6 with 200 damage per second, and mid-range being 0 kilometers to 4 with a 403 DPS. Now, this is above averaged AA defense overall due to mandatory mounting of DFAA and high flak count, but it's very dependent on flak for AA defense, sadly. And plus, her AA range does match her concealment, so it does help her on that as well. On paper, the Jinan's AA is respectable, but due to her high flak count in mid-range AA. Now, while better versus average CV players, good players will have no problem breaking through AA or just Russian CVs. As you'll see later on, the Russian CVs had no trouble just getting into my anti-array range every time over and over and over, because it just has the one squad, just flies in, gets it done, and get out. Now let's talk about the maneuverability real quick. The maneuverability of this ship top speed is 35 knots without the speed flag. With the speed flag, I believe it goes to about... It goes to 36.8 knots. Now, it does have a turning circle of 770 meters and a 7.7 rudder shift time. Now, aside from her speed, Jinan is the most maneuverable tier 10 cruiser in the game. Her small hull and excellent maneuverability is essential for surviving outside of smoke. Also helps a lot in dodging torpedoes since she cannot use hydro. Now let's talk about the concealment. Now, all values used with camos on, with a 12.1 kilometer base surface detection and a 7.4 base air detection. Now, if you build completely into detection, you get a 9.8 kilometer surface detection and a 6 kilometer best air detection. Now, it does have a 5.7 kilometer smoke bloom detection, so if you're inside a smoke, you want to make sure no one is within that range. Now, the Jinan has one of the lowest surface detection values of tier 10, being only by the Royal Navy Light Cruisers, the US Light Cruisers, and the Colbert. If there is no enemy DD, the Jinan can actually function as a decent scouting cruiser. Most of the time, the Jinan will use her detection to get as close as possible before launching torps or smoking up to farm. Now, let's talk about the consumables. Now, it does have a standard cruiser DCP with a 5-second immunity period and a 60-second reload time. Now, it does have the Pan-Asian style smoke generator, so it has the 30-second lane time with the 70-second smoke duration and 110-second reload. You do get 3 charges base with 4 with superintendent. Now, the cruiser defensive AA, it goes for 40 seconds, does a plus 50% continuous AA damage, and a plus 300% flak AA damage with the 80-second reload. You do get 3 of these charges base with 4 with superintendent. Now, the torp reload booster reduces the reload to 8 seconds upon activation, and now has a 300-second reload with 2 base charges. Now, let's talk about my overall impressions of the line. Now, the overall impressions of this ship, the Jinan, is a very high skill floor and average skill ceiling. Like the rest of the Pan-Asian Light Cruisers, the Jinan is a hybrid torpedo/gun cruiser. With her excellent concealment, she can get close to enemies before launching walls of torpedoes. And with a torpedo reload booster, the Jinan can launch up to 40 torpedoes at an enemy formation, making pushing into her a risky proposition. Any enemy caught within her deadly trap can be further subjected to the potential fire starting ability of her rapid firing guns. Now, while the Jinan carries formidable firepower, this is offset by her close effective range and very fragile hull. The Jinan loses her effectiveness past about 12 kilometers. Her limited torpedo range and very floaty shells make it impossible to participate in long-range engagements. Though Jinan has smoke, her above waterline citadel makes her extremely vulnerable if she cannot dodge enemy salvos. Plus, with her low HP pool, only a few citadels or torpedo hits is needed to send her back to port. Because again, this ship also has only 4% torpedo protection. So you really don't get that much protection from torpedoes at all. So players need to be very careful if pushing in open water, because if the Jinan is spotted, then enemy shells are likely to fall and you're going to get blown up. So overall, I would say the Jinan is an interesting niche kiting ship. She's very effective at kiting due to her deep water torpedoes and respectable gun firepower, but fairly reliant on DD spotting to maximize her firepower. And again, the deep water torpedoes can only hit cruisers, battleships, and CVs, so you cannot hit DDs with these torpedoes, just so you're aware. Now, on the other hand, she's very effective at kiting due to her deep water torpedoes, and also has respectable gun firepower, but is fairly reliant on DD spotting to maximize her firepower. On the other hand, she isn't good at aggressive plays due to her poor survivability and short effective gun range. Successful players will use their superior concealment to get as close as possible before unleashing their firepower, prioritizing enemy DDs whenever possible. Ideally, they'll be on the kiting side, slowing down enemy pushes with their deep water torpedoes and gunfire. Now, performance in game modes, it says in randoms, I would say it's about average. Very effective at kiting enemies or holding choke points, but not good at making aggressive plays. Likely to also be focused down whenever spotted. Now for ranked, I would say it's poor because of no anti-DD utility. It requires spotting for damage when in smoke, inflexible, unable to make aggressive plays due to not being able to do spotting, and also the fact that it has no hydro as well. And in clan battles, it's definitely an unlikely niche. It does work as a kiting ship, but it will likely be passed over due to their poor performance against the fast gunboat DDs. Again, since the shells are so slow, any fast gunboat DD is just going to dodge all these shells very easily. Now, I will be having a video going out on Wednesday with the tier 9 and below. I'm talking about the tier 9 and the other cruise, talking briefly about the overall line as well, coming on Wednesday. But whenever I played these ships, well, including the Jinan, it felt like I had to put so much effort into such a little payout. Now, if you are on a kiting side, where you're being pushed heavily, you will get paid big for all the torpedoes you're able to launch. But the thing is, if you do not have a DD spotting in front of you, you are going to suffer heavily. Because the moment you are spotted, you are going to get almost death struck. This ship is very squishy. It's not like an Atlanta where it has so little armor that it doesn't get citadeled. This ship has just the right amount of armor to where you suffer. It also has a very low HP pool to where a Ragnar has almost the same amount of HP. So if you want to reference how low the HP is. So that's why I would say that I would recommend this ship only barely for randoms. Barely for randoms. And not at all for ranked or clan battles. Is for those specific reasons. Because it has a very niche style of play, and it's just, it doesn't have any utility on any other utility besides that. Now, I could possibly see something done with clan battles where they have it where, but the thing is that any sort of spotting or any good clan battle team is gonna know instantly about these torps. And the fact that they cannot torp DDs are a massive hindrance. But again, you can launch 40 torpedoes in 30 seconds. That is an insane amount of torpedoes you can pump out at your enemy. So we could see potential uses down the road. Again, we don't know. We'll have to see. So, but yep, that is going to be my review of the Jinan. If you guys have any questions, concerns, definitely leave them down in the comments down below. But this is OverlordBou, and I'll talk to y'all later. Oh, big stretch, dude. Oh, big stretch, yeah.